I didn't even think about that. That just blew my mind.
I feel like I don't have any feelings right now.
These kids are my life.
They have to grow. It's adapt or die, and they have to grow.
I submitted it back in red.
It wasn't real to them. It was just something to do in school.
I'm being serious.
You are. You really are. What?
What?
All right. What up, Rick?
What up, Hyde?
All right. Welcome to another edition of Teaching Off the Books.
Woo. So before we start, we want to mention our social media platforms to find us on.
Yes. Check us out on Instagram at
Teaching Off the Books.
At Twitter at
TOTB Pod.
Our Facebook page.
Teaching Off the Books.
And Gmail.
teachingoffthebooks@gmail.com. Also, you can listen on YouTube, iTunes, and
Spotify, Stitcher, really anywhere you get podcasts, we're on there now.
Yes.
So check us out.
Yeah, please rate and review, and please subscribe.
Yes, indeed.
Because we want to hear from you.
All right, so today we have our first guest of the year.
Woo!
Of our life.
Yeah, of our Teaching Off the Books life, right?
Yeah, so we have Matt here. We met on Twitter. He reached out to us. I want to talk about his experience of teaching. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Awesome.
We're good. Thanks for coming on our podcast.
Yes.
I appreciate you guys having me.
All right, so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you teach, that kind of thing.
So I'm born and raised in Las Vegas. I'm actually a third-generation teacher.
Okay.
My parents actually started a private school out here in 1961,
Wow.
if I remember correctly. And so I actually just finished my 7th year teaching. My
Keep going.
fourth year with the school district. And I've spent the last 2 years teaching middle school social studies.
Okay,
Wow.
right on.
That's awesome.
And so are you at a Title I school also?
I am. I've actually spent 6 of my 7 years in Title I schools.
All right, well, that's really what we wanted to focus on. So let's tell people first what constitutes a Title I school, if people don't know.
Well, Title I school, maybe you guys can remind me, but I don't remember the exact percentage of students that have to qualify under a specific.
Free and reduced lunch?
Yeah, free and reduced
76.
lunch, income level, things like that. But I think what makes Title I schools very unique is just the inherent challenges that comes with working with that particular student population.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just intellectual, it's emotional, it's mental, it's all these outside challenges that really have to be faced in order for you to be successful with the kids.
Exactly. And I think that's important to note too, is because like when kids have those like outside forces, the school culture becomes like extremely important to focus on, especially getting them to learn with all of those other things going on in their life.
Yeah, and essentially it comes down to poverty. So our populations are high percentage poverty kids. And I think, a battle that we have with our school culture is, getting kids to buy in, getting parents to buy in, and kind of trying to recenter kids' lives around school a little bit. Mm-hmm. So that culture piece is always a huge struggle. So what's it like for you out there in Vegas?
It's honestly very similar. The schools I've been at, especially within the school district out here, it's really been about creating that on-campus family atmosphere where you're showing the kids how much they're loved and how much they're important to you. And, I think that's just the unique piece of it, is it's going above and beyond just the teaching piece. It's really getting involved with your kids' lives. My former principal, she always said, the kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
Yeah.
And now it's a big driving force with us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think you hit the nail on the head with that, because it goes beyond just teaching. Like, they always, like, one of the things we get evaluated on is building culture, like, within each classroom, because each classroom is so different, uniquely different. And if you can't resonate with a student or can't relate with a student, or you're not like getting to know a student, then how are you going to actually teach them anything, essentially? And that's one of the big things that our admin pushes is, well, how are you building relationships? What are you doing to build relationships? Because ultimately that's how you're going to instill any type of learning in your student and your kids.
Yeah, and that's something I experienced is a lot of, when I'm struggling with kids, trying to get kids to work when they don't want to work, a lot of the time it's just develop a relationship so that they'll do the work for me. So it becomes like a matter of loyalty. And once they're not going to do anything for you until they figure out that you're on their team too.
And when I actually spent 2 years in elementary, there were days that I had kids come in like, Mr. D didn't sleep last night. There were gunshots all night. And I'm just like, they're like, I'm tired. I'm like, look, if you need to nap, like, we'll deal with your work later. And it solved a lot of the issues I had with them versus other teachers because you had formed those connections, and that's what really drove those kids to work for you.
Sure.
Right. Well, yeah, because they trust you. And essentially trust is, the most important piece of any type of relationship, even student-teacher relationships.
Absolutely.
And they feel comfortable saying that to you. I think that's, that says a lot also.
Absolutely.
Well, I just don't think that that's pressed enough in, teacher education. It's all about, what are best practices to help them learn, but we're not dealing with the social emotional aspect.
No.
And that's just something, frankly, I had to learn on the fly with teaching Title I.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, when I first got the job at our school, I didn't even know what Title I meant. Like, yeah. I'm not even going to lie to you. I was straight out of college. I was, 22? And I was like, oh, my God, I'm ready to be a teacher. Like, woo, I know so many things. I was just, like, super pumped. Yeah. And then, when I got into my class, I was like, oh, my gosh, like, it is more than you can imagine. Like, you have more on your plate than you can imagine. And, then you start noticing, okay, well, what do I need to do to help them? So you have to do a lot of like education yourself, because they definitely didn't provide that for me. Do you think they provided that type of education for you to like understand what Title I is and like what your kids would be like?
Not really, but I wasn't an education major, so I didn't get any of that. But even
true.
In the alternative certification program, I mean, I know I've been to some trainings like teaching with poverty in mind and things like that. I can't remember if it was with the ACP program or just general professional development thing. But yeah, it's not something that it's not always at the forefront. And I mean, I think it is coming more to the surface nowadays.
Right.
But definitely when I started, it was not at the forefront.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and that's interesting because I did my teacher education, 2010, and I hate saying this, but it was really still the traditional sit down, shut up, and listen model.
Right.
And once I got into Title I, I realized very quickly that does not work at all. No. And I was like, yes, it's going to take some adjustments because everything I just spent a bunch of money on doesn't work.
Right, exactly. I'm like, what did I learn? Like, what have I just done in college forever?
That's hilarious. And it's definitely one thing, and I think different teachers do it differently, and some are better than others. But like, to build that culture inside your classroom is one thing, and I think it's relatively easy to do. But I know for us, a struggle. Well, compared to,
I'm like, no, that's not. It was not.
No,
it's not easy.
No, it's not easy. But compared to trying to create that culture school wide, I think it is relatively easy, right? So like you can convince your kids that in your room that you are there for them, right?
Okay, yeah, okay.
But when you're trying to create a school wide culture, it's not in your hands as the teacher. So I'm talking about you can control what's in your classroom. Okay. But like we have had many different efforts to sort of change the culture school wide, and that's been a constant struggle. how about you guys? I think you do pretty well in your classroom, Matt. But what school-wide initiatives have you guys tried to implement?
And actually, I'm kind of like you guys. Like I started out with those small things. Like I'm gonna reward these behaviors. I started
Sure.
pitting classes against each other as a competition.
Yeah.
Me too.
That's good.
Yeah.
And the kids loved it.
Yeah.
But this year, the school I was at this year, we just finished our third year of what's called PBIS, which is Positive Behavior Intervention Supports.
Yeah.
And really, it's kind of the culminating factor of, restorative justice. It's focusing on those good behaviors that we want to see out of the kids rather than saying, oh, Billy's talking during class, here's a demerit point or detention, whatever you want to say. Because ultimately what we're finding in more recent research is kids who act out are typically doing so because of the fact that they want the attention.
Sure.
And so the whole idea for PBIS, because this is once again a big initiative in our school district, it's designed to start to reward these good behaviors that we see in the kids, so that those kids who do want attention, they're like, oh, he was doing his work. I want points.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And so the unique thing with, PBIS is there's 3 tiers to it. The first tier is basically 60% of your student population. So those are your big school-wide initiatives that just generally should work. Tier 2 is like 30%. Those are kind of some of your problem kids. There's some of your kids who are, they're not the high flyers, but they're relatively frequent flyers.
Right.
And those are the type of kids who meet with mentor teachers. They do what's called check-in, check-out, or we call it SECO.
Okay.
And then your top 10%, those are like your high flyers. They're in the dean's office 3-4 days a week.
Right.
And those are the kids that they really get that one-on-one. They get that group kind of counseling with, one of the counselors or social workers, or they do peer mentoring with the tier 2 kids to try and show them what they should be kind of working towards. And the idea is really just to slowly tier them out of that.
Right.
And so this year we only had tier 1 and tier 2 because in our district you have to qualify through a certain percentage of fidelity to get to tier 3, which I think honestly makes sense because, if you're not proficient at 1 and 2.
Right. And how are you gonna how are you gonna reach the third level?
So how has it worked out for you guys? Has it been effective?
I think it's been moderately effective. We have 5 core values that we work on.
Okay.
And we call it Raven. And it's respect, attitude, value, effort, and never give up. And so we have a matrix and the kids trying to work towards it, whatever. And, we reward points based on that. But I mean, it always starts out really strong at the beginning of the year. And then you get January, February, and everyone's like, I'm tired. We got testing coming up.
Right.
And it's really hard to sustain that momentum to a point.
Right.
I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Everyone has to be really on top of it. And I was actually in charge of our PBIS committee, and that was the constant feeling. They're like, I don't have time. I've got this and this. And so, it's getting there, but it becomes tough, to be honest.
Right. How long has it been? How long have you been doing it? Just this year, or how long?
So my school, we had just finished year 3.
Well, was it last year we had our core values?
Yeah, we implement.
That was last year, right? Or was it this? No, it wasn't this year, was it? Was it this year? It's hard to tell.
I think it was last.
I think it was last year.
I think it was last year. Yeah.
And we got like nice banners to put in the hallways, and we got little posters to put in our classrooms, and it was going to be a big thing. This is going to be these are our core values. We're going to talk about them all the time. We're going to connect them to everything, and Can you name them right now?
Okay. I can name the non-negotiables. Okay, the core values were respect.
What are they? Are you just making shit up? No. I know one was I got your back.
Yes.
Live your best life.
Respect. It was respect.
It was?
Yes.
I think that was a non-negotiable.
Okay, keep going.
But this is my point. See what I'm talking about?
Okay, so first of all, the response, though, to the core values was, oh my gosh, this is just another thing our principal's doing. Because, like, every year he had, like, a different incentive or, like, a different initiative. So it was, like, really hard to get teacher buy-in because, like, it kept changing all the time. So if we had something like PBIS where like they're on year 3, like they can probably measure the program growth and the effectiveness of it. Whereas it's hard for us to measure if anything is effective because we don't keep it for long enough, you know? And then it kind of dies out over time. Like, yeah, we hang the banners but like I know myself, I had them hung up. But it was hard for me to constantly refer back to them other than have your back. Because I was like, are you having his back right now? Like, no. Like, how do you show that? So that was like kind of the only one.
Yeah.
That I really focused on.
Matt, so have you noticed a difference? Has it gotten better over those 3 years, or is it still a struggle?
So I was only at this school for 2 years.
Okay.
I would say that this year was definitely better than last year. Yeah. Because last year I was definitely the teacher that they came around to ask if you knew what the expectations were, and I was like, well, attitude, and they're like, anything else? I was like, no. I was like, that's all I got. So
right.
Yeah.
You know, and it's good. It takes work. It's a thing that it's putting the time in. I mean, honestly, I would probably, if I had to guess, it probably takes 3 to 5 years to really have it having some steam.
Right. And how do you measure it? You know, that's kind of my thing is like, do you notice it in discipline referrals? That's kind of like what I would assume is like referrals decrease or like, I don't know.
I don't know. I almost think it's a feeling. You just feel it in the halls.
But if someone said to you, okay, why should we keep PBIS at our school? It's a feeling. It feels good.
Right.
Like, no, like you're going to have legitimate, like, you know, like sustainable
data. What would you say to that?
Yeah, what do you think?
I mean, it comes down to a consistency thing because, you know, when I had to do our last data point, and oddly enough, I got it done like 2 weeks before we hit lockdown in Vegas. But, you know, I'd hear, you know, you ask kids and adults, what are our values? And then we ask the kids we ask the kids and the adults.
Okay.
You know, adults, have you given out points since Christmas break? And it's yes or no, whatever. And kids, have you gotten points? And they're like, yes or no. And some are like, I don't know. The teachers don't tell me. And so part of it becomes a recognition thing where you're saying, hey, Billy, awesome job. Way to show respect to your classmate. And that's how it's supposed to be done. So it's verbalized. And so the kids understand what they're getting points rather than here's a point for value because you showed up to class on time.
Right.
Well, so I guess we didn't.
Points.
I don't know if we really explained the point system. So the kids get points for following the core values, and then what do their points get them? What do they do with the points?
So our points, every teacher has what's called a PBIS store.
Yeah. And
you can buy pencils, papers, free pass for homework, which I hate that one so much.
Well, who decides what's in the store?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did free pass for about a month last year, and after that I was like, no, this isn't working. But basically they can use those points that they've earned from their positive behaviors for things that they need, whether it's pencils, it could be using a cell phone charger or you know, whatever those options that teachers decide. But that also becomes a point of, should it be somewhat even across the board?
Right. So each teacher has their own store, and do they just decide what's in it on their own?
Exactly. Exactly. And that became a big point of contention amongst my committee last year, because they're like, well, I do this. And I'm like, well, we need to level the playing field, and we can't have Miss Jones offering a pencil for 5 points and Mr. D's offering a pencil for 15.
Right. It has to be.
There's how raid her store.
Right.
Oh, that's true. So it has to kind of be like everyone has kind of the same things and the same points, because if you had like homework passes, they're always going to use your points for your class, and they're never going to use their points for my class or whatever.
Yeah, well, did you have like a school-wide store? That seems like that would take care of that problem.
It honestly would have, and that was one of the things we talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have teachers who are like, well, I didn't sign up to be a store clerk. I'm not trying to sell, hot Cheetos in my classroom. And I don't want to eat in my classroom.
That's a good one.
And for me, I just went with the free stuff. I was like, oh, you can charge your phone.
Right.
You can listen to music while you do your work. You can, stuff that didn't cost me, because frankly, I didn't want to go out and buy thousands of pencils, because I'd rather just give them a pencil and say, I'd rather you do your work for free.
Right, exactly. Why you can't like charge them. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I like that idea. I think I think some teachers do that with like tickets in their classrooms. Like in our school, they have like a money system, and the tickets are worth a certain amount of money, and they can like buy things like
pencils.
Yeah,
well, that's the thing. It's like, what are you really going to put in that store?
Well,
really
I know a couple teachers do like the chargers or like extra bathroom passes, because like.
Yeah, we only got 3 How do you guys do bathroom passes? I'm curious.
Yeah, that's silly.
So we give this year we had they had these templates that we printed out.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, well, we had these templates, and you were supposed to.
I never listened.
So you give the kid the pass at the beginning of the semester, and there's like 3 spaces on it for 3 bathroom passes.
It's a piece of paper
for the quarter.
This big.
Well, you're supposed to print
They keep it
on
all quarter.
stock, or they don't go to the bathroom. Yeah.
And they take that little piece of paper to the bathroom with them.
Yeah, they do.
It's
I can't
disgusting.
believe.
It's first of all, it's wrong.
It's
dumb.
You put it in your pocket.
And first of all, if a kid can't bring a pencil to class, how do you think they're going to keep a little tiny ass piece of paper in their pocket for 6 weeks, 9 weeks?
9 weeks.
And so I said, absolutely not. I'm not doing this.
Wow.
My kids.
And that's why school-wide initiatives do not fucking work. Because everybody's not on board.
I didn't want to keep track of it.
God.
First of all, that has nothing to do with student success. That has nothing to do with student success.
Your argument is, just so we're clear.
What?
I didn't want to do it. That's your argument.
I think it was gross. And if a kid has to go to the bathroom, I let them go to the bathroom.
Okay.
That's essentially, you know what I mean? They got to go to the bathroom normally whenever they wanted to. And a lot of times, I never really had issues with it. Because, like, my lessons were so engaging that my kids wanted to be in class.
Okay. Okay. So anyway, but I was gonna say that the execution. So like whatever initiative you're gonna try to implement, it's gonna take time,
right?
And the execution is what matters. If you teachers have to buy in, every teacher has to be on board, and that's the only way it's gonna work. And so I think when we tried all these initiatives at our school, I think a big part of it was we didn't get teacher buy-in.
Yeah.
Well, what do you do for bathroom passes?
I don't.
Yeah.
I think bathroom pass is the dumbest thing on the planet.
Thank you.
I hate them with every fiber of my being. Like, I can't stand, and I'll tell you why. And this will probably link to something else we're going to talk to. But I got sent to the Ron Clark Academy my second year in the district.
Yeah.
And we noticed kids would like. It was very rare that they did walk out of class, but we haven't asked them. We're like, so your kids can just leave their class? No, like, yes. If they need to use the bathroom and it's that important that they need to miss instruction, don't ask me, just go. And a light went off in my head because I go, oh my God, they figured it out. And I'm sitting here like an idiot being like, angry when I ask a question. The kid goes, "Can I use the bathroom?" That type of stuff just made me like spitting mad. I just would be so angry when that happened. And so I got to the point where I was like, if it's that important for you to go, don't ask me to go, but also don't ask me to tell you what you missed. You're going to have to ask your classmate.
Right. So it's like more accountability.
Sure. You got to be responsible.
But what I did end up having to do, because it was becoming like a ton of kids this year were using the bathroom, I was like, this is insane. Mm-hmm. And so I actually ended up creating a Google form where they had to fill in their name, their student number, and then do a drop down of where they were going, and then it time stamped it for me.
Yeah.
And so I just tracked every single kid. And when kids would be like, I didn't go yesterday, I'm like, go look at the iPad because I bet you did. But it's also to the point that I'm not going to tell them no, because I don't want that kid who pees himself in my classroom and then a parent's like, I'm filing a lawsuit because I know I'm not going to win it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's funny because don't even look at me like that.
I'm just listening.
So I was always the guy. I was always like, yeah, go. I didn't even write passes. I didn't even do anything. I was just like, go.
Wow, real follower.
But what do you mean? But if we were going to do something as a school, I thought, it's only going to work if we all do it. So I'm going to do it to be a team player.
Okay.
But I guess that's just me.
Okay, but. And here's a big thing about initiatives is that, okay, who is involved in the planning process? So I feel like if teachers were more involved in the planning of, hey, we really want to roll this out. What do you think about it? You would have had more teachers come together and be like, okay, I don't think this is a good idea. Let's revamp it. I feel like you would have had more opinions. Hang on. I think that you would have had more people come up with a better idea rather than, hey, this is what we're going to do. Here's what you have to do. Make sure you do it. And that's kind of how it felt. And I was like, I don't agree with the idea. I don't personally think it's going to work. The kids don't even bring pencils to class. How are they going to keep a piece of paper for 9 weeks? Nah. So that's how I felt.
Well, I love your optimism
Thank you.
You think that getting all the teachers together.
Not all of them, but like a willing committee. So if if you're not on it, then you can't complain.
I don't think better ideas come out of that necessarily. Have you ever heard of the how camels were invented?
Oh God, no.
Have you ever heard of camels?
No.
So camels were horses that were built by a committee.
Okay.
Get it?
What? I don't understand.
I know you don't.
It just seems like that massive hodgepodge of information that you just try to all shove into one circle.
Yeah.
I don't think we could do one thing that would make everybody happy. I think is the problem.
I just think that was a really terrible idea. Because it ended by I don't know, Q2. No one was using it anymore,
I mean, I think that there's something to be said about teacher-driven initiatives, though.
I agree.
Sure.
It's like you guys said. When it comes from admin, you're like, Jesus Christ, another initiative this year? We just had 5 new ones last year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how I am.
But I think that when teachers are allowed to drive, an initiative, or whatever, the teachers have so much excitement about it because they're like, oh my God, they let me create something.
Yeah.
We're gonna pump this out. We're gonna get the staff all juiced about it.
Right.
And that's exciting, but then it also becomes very hard to maintain too.
Sure.
Right.
Because if you think kids are hard to keep entertained, full-grown adult teachers are the worst to keep entertained with an initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to be the only one that's excited about something.
Huh?
It's really hard to be the only one that's excited about something.
It's really difficult.
Yeah. And that kind of brings us to the whole Ron Clark thing. It's when they started our Ron Clark initiative, they made it a big deal.
So let's tell them what our Ron Clark initiative is.
Hang on. You can do that. Before that,
I guess we'll just talk about it first and then explain what it is later.
Okay. Wait, what Ron Clark is?
Yeah. What do you mean our Ron Clark initiative? Yeah.
Okay, our Ron Clark initiative is to create better school culture. What do you think of this, Tyson?
So what she's talking about is the house system. So Ron Clark Academy has a house system with 4 houses.
I'm sorry, I'm still educating myself on the topic.
Oh, you don't know about it? Is that what it is?
I'm trying to listen to the experts here.
All right. So, there's 4 houses. Each student gets put into a house. Each house has a color, a crest,
Yes.
a symbol, a hand sign,
You're doing a
a
great
chant. So, so it's like to build school culture, make kids feel like they're part of
Right,
a
a
team,
community.
a house. And then, so that's what we're doing.
Right, but when we started it for we only started it for teachers
Right.
this year. So like they made it a big deal. So they got a DJ. We did it before school started. It was like this big faculty meeting, and they had, basically everything. They had lanyards and balloons,
Hats and masks
and masks
and
and beads and those things that you like make a noise with your mouth. What is it called?
Noisemakers?
No, I don't know. I used to see him at birthday parties. and the do, you know what I'm talking about? Oh,
I
whatever.
do. I call them noisemakers.
And it was like pretty exciting because you were like, oh, and then when you got into your team, you're like, oh yeah, like I'm Altruismo,
Right.
and I was like,
Right.
yeah, we're black and white, like we're cool. And you got to like hang with your groupies because you're like, oh, I never get to hang out with you. Like I didn't even really knew you existed. Well, it's true. Let's be real. And like that was cool.
It was.
And I feel like we didn't get to do it with the kids yet. So like I think it will be interesting to see.
Well, the current plan is, so we were supposed to sort the kids in May at school.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened. So as far as I know, the current plan is to like mail them a postcard in the mail.
What?
Yep.
When did that information? Okay, well, it's all new to me.
And so I think that's a terrible idea. And going back to execution, like,
Does that get them excited?
no, it's not going to work if we send them a postcard. in
Are
the
their
mail.
addresses online even accurate?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay,
But
whatever.
I think maybe if we do that and then something on the first day of school also,
Yeah.
that might work. But it definitely has to be a big.
But it has to be,
big deal.
yeah, and it has to be something that we stick with. So I know that you conducted a house system in your school. How did that go? How was it like Ron Clark? Or different?
Sorting the teachers was interesting because they listen about as well as my students do. Of course, we'd hand in the bag and we're like, don't open this until we tell you. And they're like starting to peek. I'm like,
Right.
Jesus, just follow the rules.
Right.
But the teachers were super stoked about it. We did it the week before school started. So we're all walking around with our lanyards. The kids see us with it.
Right.
Like a bunch of teachers decorated their door to their hallway, like their classroom door into the hallway. Like I had bulletin boards in my room with my house on it. And it was, a lot of it becomes really hyping it up to the kids. The teachers have to be 100% juiced about it. Be like, oh, I want you in my house so bad.
Right.
Like, this is awesome. These other houses, they suck.
Yeah.
Which, of course, I told other kids that their houses suck because I was like, my house is where it's at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we did our big reveal and we got over the loudspeaker. We're like, all right, everyone open your bags. Like myself and a coworker of mine, we packed all of these bags for 1,300 kids. I hated myself afterwards.
Oh my God.
But
That's too much.
it was totally worth it because once we did the reveal, we then released them by hallway to where they're meeting their groups. We had music blaring. Like,
cool.
The kids were absolutely juiced about it. And then it's great, but it all comes down to making sure you sustain that energy.
Right.
Sure.
Because the school that we, obviously it's modeled off of Ron Clark, but the school we asked for help of like how they set it up and run it, they're like, we're in year 3. It takes 3 to 5 years to nail this thing down.
Right.
Because we're in year 3 and it's finally running smoothly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it becomes about sustaining the energy in the long run. Like that initial energy is good, but it's got to be, it takes complete and utter teacher buy-in, and everyone's just got to be like, yeah, this is what we're doing. Don't like it, get out.
Right. And every teacher should probably know the answer to like, what is Ron Clark and why are we using it? That would be an important start.
Yeah, which is actually interesting because I'm trying to was asked to make a video to sort of explain what the house system is, and then recruit kids to be like house ambassadors for each grade. And one of the things I asked for was, I was like, hey, do we have, like, I think we should have some sort of common language when we talk about what this is and why we're doing it. So do you have that language? And the answer was no. I'll get it to you. I still haven't got it. But but that's another detail that is very important that kind of gets pushed to the side.
And I agree. And, you know, another thing, so if you're going to have school culture, you need to know who your kids are. And I'm sorry, but a huge population that we have is our ELL kids, and that's who I'm in charge of. So, like, when the kids
when you
are
say
like...
huge population, what are you talking here percentage-wise?
Okay, so I don't do percentages. I do numbers. So I have 104 ESOL students in the program currently, but I have 123 former ELL students that I have to keep track of for the next 2 years.
So about 10%.
Okay, cool. Good job.
Okay.
Anyway, so 10% of that population speaks either only Spanish or French or Creole or Swahili or, you know.
Only their home language.
Only their home language or you know, they're speaking both languages.
Right.
So my kids were like, okay, like, what is this? And I was like, you know what I mean? So, like, feel like since you're in charge of, like, the ambassadors, well, kind of, you just said you were.
I'm not in charge of anything.
I
Let's
thought you
get
said
that straight.
I thought you said
right
you were
away.
trying to recruit ambassadors.
I'm trying to make a video.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, so I feel like there needs to be inclusion. Like, there's got to be someone who speaks Spanish or speaks another language that can, like, kind of be the voice for the kids that, you know, don't really understand what the hell's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I think a good way to explain to kids is it's kind of a family for them within the school.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It forces those relationships with other students they would have otherwise never had at school.
Exactly.
And so it's that family within a family type ideal, really. And it's every kid loves a little bit of competition where they can shit talk their friend and be like,
right,
you're
sure.
down 200 points.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. They just need to understand what's happening. Like, what are they saying to me? What is going on? You know, I just want everyone to feel included because that's like a huge goal. If you're going to have class culture or school culture, you got to make sure like everyone understands what that initiative is.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And like why you're doing it. If it's even, even having to translate it into another language.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, because if it's for everyone, it's for everyone.
That's true. Very true.
Yeah.
So how did your house system end up, Matt?
Sadly, it will not be coming back next year.
So what happened?
Damn.
That's about how it ended up, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So annoying.
It was tough. The principal we started with, she was a very big advocate, and then we got a new principal. And if it's not your admin's jam, it's not their jam. Like I'm not mad at my now former principal for it. I understand that she's got to run a school that works for her. Mm-hmm. And I'm down with that. But, unless you have those big supports, you can't be successful. And unless everyone's going to buy in and say, yeah, we're behind this, that's the only way it's successful. And
mm-hmm.
I had a great time doing it. I don't regret a thing about it. But, it takes time.
Are you going to do it in your classroom?
I'll continue the point system because, we talked about bits and pieces of restorative justice, and kids like being recognized for being good. They like being recognized. Oh, you turned your homework in. Awesome job. Because then they start getting competitive, and they're like, now I really want to earn these points.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's nice to need more of them. And then my favorite thing about PBIS and class point systems is when the kids start calling out their classmates like, dude, you are screwing this up for us. We're going to lose this quarter. And I'm like, yeah, get them.
Yeah. And then you don't have to be the bad guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Then it's like the kids telling each other what to do. And it's kind of nice to take that weight off your shoulders.
Always.
Because I do kind of a similar point system. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
it just makes life a hundred times easier.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree for sure. That's
Well,
true.
and so we have we started I guess it's new. It was new last year. Peer counseling program. So it's like a class, but they focus on doing things like restorative circles
Right.
and mentoring and sort of mediating when kids have conflicts and that type of thing. And I think it's been pretty good, but there's a couple things about it. So like. One, I think a big part of it is the teacher who did it made a big impact. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it would have happened without her.
I don't think so.
And then another thing is she was starting to have problems where it was like, she was ready to suspend kids. You know what I mean? It was like, these kids are having a conflict. We tried to talk it out 2-3 times. It's not working. Like, get them out of here. And she would, run into resistance when that's with that sort of thing, even though she had already gone through the steps of trying, restorative circle, mentoring, whatever, mediating, etc.
Yeah, what do you do?
I think, well, and that's
You
what
do
I was
it
gonna-
again?
No, I think you suspend them. I think, you know what I mean? I think, so do you have, like, with your system, do you kind of, do you go up to a point and then go back to the old ways? Or do you just try to work it out the entire time?
So because restorative justice is a big initiative within our school district,
Sure.
everyone has to follow through a flow chart.
Okay.
So it's like we have what's called MBIs, or minor behavior incidents, and then you have to categorize it by what the behavior is. Well, you can get 5 MBIs before it becomes a major, and the deans deal with it. And so it's like, are you doing environmental modifications? Are you sending them to a buddy teacher? Are you calling home? Are you having conversations with the kid?
Right.
Different thing. Obviously, your big things like kid gets in a fight, yeah, they're getting suspended. Like
Right.
that's a non-negotiable in terms of discipline.
Okay. Oh, that's
And then
interesting.
other stuff that the deans still have to look at and be like, well, I understand it's a major, but I can't suspend a kid for 5 tardies.
Right.
And they're like, we'll call home, we'll talk to the parents about how important it is for the kids to be in
Right.
class. And at first, it made me just so angry because I was like, this is stupid. We need to start making examples out of kids. And then I started to understand, and I was like, there's more to this. And that's when the restorative justice piece really started to make a lot more sense to me. But, certainly you want to keep, the whole goal is to keep these kids in school. The more
Right.
time
Sure.
in school, the farther behind they fall, which are a lot of these kids are already behind. Whether it's because they're, low socioeconomic, ELL,
Right.
just problem kids, whatever. I mean, these are the same kids who probably got suspended 15 days in elementary school.
Right, exactly.
So I have a question for those minor behavior incidents, do you have to do a lot of paperwork for that?
It is actually a digital system.
Is it like an online form? You got to drop down the little things. So I think
Yep.
it's like our behavior
Tracker, yeah.
Um,
Okay.
So, like, with the tardies, because I wrote so many tardies this year. I would like straight up lock, like bell rang, I'd lock my door shut and walk inside.
We'd
And
have
just
to
let
lock our
all
doors,
the
so
kids wait outside.
yeah.
And so I would tag like 10 kids onto one target, and they'd be like, "But Mister, I'm being so much trouble with my parents." I'm like, show up to class on time.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, I can only help you guys so much, but you guys gotta do your part. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's a big thing is it's kind of meeting the kids halfway.
Right, and we had that policy where we close and lock our doors when the bell rings, and I always treated it like a basketball shot, because I'd be standing at my door holding it open, and then when the bell rang, I would just walk inside and let the door close. And if they could make it before the door closed, I let them in.
I did.
That's how
I
I did
freaking pulled that. No, normally my kids are fine.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, it's like, do I just let them in because they're banging on my door, or do I make them get a pass? Because we had a system where they had to get a pass because they were keeping track of their tardies, because they really wanted to crack down, but they were letting kids get like 21 tardies and nothing was happening.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was gonna say, judging
I
from
was on
your-
that tardy nonsense thing.
You probably just let them in, huh?
Yeah, I always let them in. And
Bathroom.
but the thing is, I wrote a tardy in the system. I didn't have a physical paper, but I marked that they were tardy online, so it did get sent to the office as a tardy. So it's still counted against them, but like, am I gonna waste time being like, hey, you, go get a pass when you're right in front of me, when I can just mark it in my computer?
It is a pain in the ass, and I think
Like, I don't get
I
that.
think because tardies are something we struggle with all year, and
Yeah, I mean,
I think at the end there before we left, I think we got it under control.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, so like in my class, like I kind of do the point system like you do. So like if the kids are all in their seat when the bell rings, they'll get 100 points for their class. And it's competitive based on all the classes. So like their phone has to be in their backpack. Their backpack goes up at the front of the room. They have all their materials and they're in their seat when the bell rings. And if someone's late, they don't get 100 points. But I do count. So if there's like 21 kids in the seat, I'll put 21 points on the board. They didn't get 100, but they still got points for, individual. But then that kid comes in late and they're like, bro, we could have had 100 points, and then they're like, oh, no. And then, so that kind of like makes it better. So that's why I don't care about that so much.
You have your own system. So that goes back to you do a great job of creating your own culture in your classroom.
Thank you.
But you're fucking it up for the rest of us.
Well, do better.
No, but that's
kidding.
my point.
But there's got to be
every
like
school-wide initiative has to have every teacher on board, or it's not going to work.
I mean, my mentor taught me that, and
Taught you what?
taught me that point system,
Right, but
and it saved my entire life. Like,
Well,
so.
But I mean, that point system is something that I used to combine with our PBIS system. Like, I'd be rewarding kids, and I'd be like, "Oh, I gotta plug these into the system and give them points, so their house gets points, and
Yeah,
they
that's a
get
lot.
for the years and stuff." But it kind of dialed it in for me, and really allowed me to start rewarding those good behaviors because I had very specific things that I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of them I probably shouldn't have been rewarding for PBIS, like, oh, you got above 70% on a test. Like,
Oh,
no,
that's
just
good.
expectation to do well on a test.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I do
but
find-
I think they should be recognized for doing
no,
well.
and I think there have been many times when I've been like, I'm going to reward this behavior, or I'm going to reward this, even though you're doing some shit you should have done anyway. I'm still going to give you the credit for doing it, whether it's a verbal thing or whatever, just because they need that. And something that I've noticed is like, they need validation so bad. Like you just telling them genuinely, hey, like, good job. I'm proud of you. That goes a long
Yeah, it
way
does.
for a lot of these kids.
Yeah, I think coming into a Title I school too, like the times have changed. Like you're like, oh, well, shouldn't they have just raised their hand? Like, shouldn't they just know how to do that? No, like I reward that. I give points.
Right.
You raised your hand, point for you. You get 5 points for participating. So I just stand there and tally while they're, because I just do it on the dry erase board or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, they'd be like answering questions. I'm like, correct. I'm like,
Yeah, exactly.
on my board, like it's going out of style. And they're like, no, I'd ask something stupid and easy because I had a class I was way behind. Like, if you can give this answer right, I'll give you 50 points.
Yeah, I do that too. And they're like, oh, me.
Yeah.
Yes, I do the same thing, and it's so helpful. It's
Although I
so
have
great.
to say, last year
Oops.
I honestly felt kind of bad about this initially, but I totally rigged one of my quarters for one of my classes that was like so underachieving. I was like, they've been working so hard, but they're a small class. They can't compete with these large classes. I'm gonna make sure they win.
Yeah, I've done that too. Don't worry,
That's
I've done
awesome.
that.
That's awesome.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, you may have done a good job, but
knowing someone else has done it.
yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
But it makes the day, and then you start to get that buy-in and all that restorative justice, that PBIS stuff. It all pays off.
exactly.
Yeah. And well, I think that, again, it takes time, and that's one thing that worries me. So the teacher who is doing our peer counseling program right now, who has done such a good job, she's about to get her master's at the end of next school year to be an admin. And like I've had conversations with her, and like I said to her, like, I already know as soon as you get your master's, you're going to get an offer and you're going to be gone.
Right.
And then it's like, who's going to take over this program, and is it going to go to shit? The answers are, I don't know, and probably, yes. Well,
because, like, and our principal has said that before, because we used to have, like, 9th grade initiatives where, like, if the kids had a 2.0 in 9th grade, they would do, like, a breakfast or, like, an ice cream social for them to, like, just, give them a reward for getting a 2.0 or no A's, no D's or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, or cotton candy for report cards. And I was like, whatever happened to those? Like, they just like went away. And he's like, well, programs live and die with the person who created it. And I was like,
who said that?
Our principal.
And who created it?
An AP who left. So, like, succession management is, like, really important because, like, if a program is working at your school, you should try and find someone who is, like, willing to take that on so it doesn't, go to shit, essentially.
Yeah. Matt, what's turnover like at your school? How many teachers you lose every year?
So it's been less the last 2 years because we're part of what's called the Innovative Schools in Clark County.
So you get that bonus money, huh?
Huh?
You get bonus money?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So do we.
So, I don't know if you guys know who our superintendent is, but it's Dr. Jesus Jar. He came from Florida, I believe.
Oh, wow.
And I'm assuming you guys have way more districts than Nevada does.
Huh. I don't know the name.
What was the name? Jesus what?
Jesus Jara.
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 I don't know.
He's a proponent of like the restorative justice and PBIS and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, now I'm losing my train of thought. Teacher turnover. So yeah, we get that bonus money. I mean, last year we probably replaced 15 teachers.
It's not bad.
Well, he's got half the kids. That's about the same
60,
of us. So you guys have
65 of us, 65, 70 of us.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
So that's actually kind of a lot.
It's about the same. It's about the same. We had about 22. You have about 1,300 students. We have about 2,200. I think we have like
140.
140 teachers, and we're losing at least 30 teachers this year.
I would say more than that now.
Oh, wow.
We have a new high school opening up, like in a suburban.
A suburb. I swear to God, she teaches English.
Yeah.
Jesus.
In the suburbs, and it's brand new, and a lot of our teachers who work at our school live in that area, so obviously they all went there. So like, and we're getting a new principal, so like everyone's like, I'm out, like deuces, and I think it's more than 30 now, so it's gonna be like a lot.
It is a lot, and I mean that number isn't super high for us. I would say we lose about 20 or 30 students or teachers every year, which is pretty fucked up if you think about it. But this year is bad because we're losing. Usually it's like first, second, third year teachers. This year
They're
there's
veterans.
a lot of like 5, 6, 7 year teachers that are leaving.
And like people who are important to our school, like started initiatives and like are on committees and
Senior
like
steering.
and like and like really?
Mm-hmm.
She's leaving?
Hey, I didn't know that.
Anyway. But yeah, so it's like it's crazy.
I'll tell you what though, I feel like there needs to be a higher level of training if you're going to make it in Title I. Like, I love Teacher America, but God, these teachers need better training for the kids they're getting dealt with. I'm like, dude, I could not have survived this in my first year.
Have you ever had a teacher quit on the first day or the first week, just bounce?
I can't say that I have, but I feel like they make it to like November and they're like,
oh wow, it's long.
Yeah,
we had a guy make it to 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, there was. I want to say it was like
he was the classroom of across from me, and I was like, "Please just stay to the end of the day." And he was like, "No."
Well, and there was one year where I want to say we had 3 or 4 teachers leave in the first week of school
in the same classroom.
Yeah.
So imagine those kids. They were terrible until May. I mean, it was bad because they were like, they didn't have any consistency. And so when someone finally went in there and went to like teach, they were like, you're probably just going to leave us.
Yeah.
So it was really difficult. But yeah, we have really, we have a large turnover, especially this year.
So in my department, I had a long-term sub, and she was like working to get her credential. And she should have been credentialed by like January of this year, but she left after like October because once again she was putting in way too many hours. She's like, I'm here till 7 o'clock every night. I'm like I'm like 3 beers deep and had a prayer by 7 o'clock.
Wow, what? Like 7 o'clock?
But she's like, I need to study for these tests, whatever.
Yeah.
So I end up with her group of kids, and I love this teacher to death, but they broke one teacher, and they're like, oh, we're coming for you. And I'm like,
yeah, next? Who's next?
I was like, welcome to your own pain, because y'all ain't succeeding in this classroom. And it sucks, because you just, like, when you get someone else's class that you're trying to, like, teach, and you just have to like throw down the hammer every class period, all class.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. And it sucks because they're the same kids you want to have fun with, but they have to work through this restorative justice PBIS model before you can even appreciate what you've tried to do for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough.
And I was going to say a lot of these kids, I think if you just stick with them, they get better. Like I've had experiences with kids where maybe I didn't get along with them one year real great. Our relationship wasn't great.
Yeah.
But then, summer break would come. We'd come back to school and I'd see them and they'd be like, hey, what's up? And it's almost like they don't have a lot of people that are there with them year over year. So it's like if you're even just a little part of their life for more than 1 year, like you're kind of in.
Well, I think that even comes down to how your classes work with you. I mean, and you guys probably have the same experience where you might have like, I hate to say it this way, but like your best class, like your good behavior class, where like 3 weeks in, they're broken in, you're having fun with them, you're jamming, and then you got like that one class, and you're like, it took me till March to break you and for you to pay attention.
No, for sure. Yeah. I think we've.
So it's like that's the reality of like how this stuff works and why I think people get so tired out on the restorative justice and they're like, this shit doesn't work. I'm like, just give it time. It works every time, just like Novocaine, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does take time though, and you kind of got to eat a lot of shit too. I feel like, especially if you're used to being like, oh no, get out of here, like, and just like disciplining kids right away. A lot of those, especially older teachers, I feel like can't have a hard time switching to that restorative justice model instead of just like, I'm the teacher, I'm punishing you, and that's it. We're not talking about this.
Well, that's the case with admin too, is like if not everyone's on the same page with discipline, it's going to be a shit show because like I've heard some of our new admin talk about like setting the tone, and they're like, you need to make an example out of him. It's like a new AP that just came on board, and like we have just been like talking about like peer counseling and like setting mediations and having meetings and helping kids and getting their parents involved. And he was like, no. So it's like, okay, how do you do that when not everyone is on board? So that's something that like is kind of confusing. Like, I'll
tell you what, some of the most amazing conversations and reactions from kids have happened when your normally good kid has a rough day. You pull them aside and you're like, dude, this ain't you. And they open up, and that creates this whole new relationship, and you're like, oh my God, it actually works. It's coming through. And the more you start to have relations, like I had one kid, and I'll never forget this kid the rest of my life. The most explosive blackout anger. Every teacher thought this kid was an asshole, and this kid and I, like, we had conversations, and I was like, this kid is like the greatest thing on earth. Like, he might have blackout, like curtains down rage, but he wouldn't lie to me. He'd be like, yeah, I started. I'm like, well, I still got to write you up, but thanks for being honest with me.
Yeah.
But it's creating those relationships, and that's what really makes this fun.
Yeah.
I think.
100%. 100%. It comes down to those personal relationships with those kids. And if you really get, depending on who, you get the right kid on your side, and they'll have your back for the whole class. They'll stick up for you to other kids, and they'll have your back in all situations.
Yeah, that's true.
Goes back to that loyalty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love my tough kids.
Yeah, we do too.
Yeah.
Those are the best ones because once you hit that break, you're like, all right, teaching's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. And everyone's confused that you like them. They're like, who? Him? Her?
Yeah,
really?
I know, yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah.
It's funny.
Okay. But yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yes.
Yeah. We're so glad that we were able to do this.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Matt. We really appreciate it.
Blast.
Yeah, for sure. I think that we could probably keep talking for like another 4 hours.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to do it again sometime.
Yeah, definitely. Because I know we had some other topics that we wanted to discuss on maybe like another episode or something.
Definitely,
right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And if you guys have any ideas about what you want us to talk about, let us know. You can hit us up on Instagram at
Teaching Off the Books.
Twitter at
TOTV Pod.
Gmail.
Teaching Off the Books at gmail.com.
And our Facebook page.
Teaching Off the Books.
Yep.
And you can listen on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. I use Stitcher, right?
Yep. Rate, review, subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Matt, for for reaching out to us on Twitter and collaborating and meeting with us on Zoom. That was super cool. We're so glad you're not a weirdo. What? I'm genuinely happy.
I know
you just never know,
This has actually been a blast to sit here and talk to you guys about this. So
yeah,
yes,
it's
definitely.
great to like relate to other teachers, especially who like aren't in Florida.
Yeah, you're so far away, but we have all the same problems.
Yeah, exactly. It's so nice in a way, and it's definitely very eye-opening, but it's really great too.
Yeah. All right. Well.
All right, guys.
All right. Well, pencils down. Drinks up. Hope we have a drink, Matt. Woo!
All right.
I actually get really hot when that happens.
Okay, that's pretty extreme.
I should have listened to you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know.
You are for sure dramatic.
I didn't even think about that. That just blew my mind.
I feel like I don't have any feelings right now.
These kids are my life.
They have to grow. It's adapt or die, and they have to grow.
I submitted it back in red.
It wasn't real to them. It was just something they do in school.
I'm being serious.
You are. You really are. What?
What?